Changing the front pads on a 2000 Grand Prix GT should be the same from 97 to 03-ish. Once you got it up in the air, secure on the jack stand, go ahead and take your wheel off. Alright, once you have your wheel off, you're going to need to take the two mounting bolts off for your caliper. That's the top one. And there's your bottom one, 15 millimeter. Okay, there's your two mounting bolts. Then you just slide your caliper off. You want to be careful, you don't want to twist this or pull on it. You should have a block or something set up to set your caliper on, because you don't want to hang the weight off of this so you can damage your brake hose. It's kind of a two-handed ordeal. And if it's stuck, you can just tap it with a hammer. Okay, so there it is. Make note of how the pads go in before you take it off. Let's get these pads out of here and put the new ones in. And if you're doing your rotor too, well, doing your rotor, just take it off. It'll come right off. If it's stuck, you're gonna have to tap around on it with a hammer to get it off. Okay, you want to take this outer pad off first. We're gonna leave the old one in for a second because you're gonna use your C-clamp to push your piston back in. Okay, it's just basically gonna wiggle out like that. Both sides. There you go. Now we're gonna put our C-clamp through here so we can push this piston in. Okay, you're gonna need a big ass C-clamp. You're gonna stick it through here against the pad like that. And then again, you should really have this more secure than I do. And then you're gonna push in your piston. Shit. You just turn it until it stops, don't force it. Alright, once you got your piston pushed in all the way, then you can pop your pad out. Alright, there's with the pads out. And then you can take your new pads. Most kits are going to come with two. They're going to have this wear indicator. Basically, once it gets down to that, that'll touch your rotor and it'll squeal. It'll let you know you're about out of brake pad and you need to change them. So most kits will come with two pads that have that and two that don't. So make sure you put one on each side with the squealer. Okay. Don't touch these. You don't want to get grease and shit on them. And you're just gonna, it's kind of hard to do with one hand. Pop them in there like that on both sides and just wiggle them back until they go back all the way. Well, maybe not too far back. It's kind of hard to see. It's gonna pop out of your thing there. So make sure it doesn't do that. I gotta get it back in there. There we go. As far back as it'll go in there without popping out the back side. It's gonna be the same for the front. Alright, so see, you don't want to be a dumbass like me and put the squealers both on one side. See, look how tight that is in there. It did clear, but I was in a hurry because I'm trying to get this car done. It's okay because it's my own car. I gotta get this thing done in the next few minutes and get out of here, but so I was in a hurry and didn't pay attention. There's gonna be one of these for each side with most kits, like I said. And judging by the clearance here, how tight it is, I would say your squealer, you're gonna want to put it on the front side. So there's what the pad's in. And then we just gotta flip it over, put it over this rotor, and put the mounting bolts back in. Okay, if you're having trouble getting it to fit over the rotor like I am, of course make sure your pads are pushed in all the way. But this whole assembly right here actually slides on these pins right here, so you can grip it from your caliper and pull on this, and it will slide in and out like that, so you can get it to where you need it to get it over your rotor. So I had to push this all the way back as far as it would go. Pretty much. So now I got this pad all the way back as far as it'll go up against the piston. Now you can see the gap there from where I pushed it back. So then you can slide this in further. Fuck. Now you have more clearance to get over your rotor. Okay, I was having an issue with clearance trying to get this over. I did the other side just fine. Trying to figure out what the fuck was the problem over here. Right here, when I was trying to slide the assembly over the rotor, it was catching on the rotor right here, and I was trying to figure out what the hell. I thought I pushed this in all the way, but I didn't. Alright, so anyways, basically, I thought I had this pushed in all the way. You can see it's just the smallest amount of difference. This thing was basically out here level with the pad. And I pressed really hard just on this side and it went in a little further, so I thought I had this pushed in all the way and I didn't. So if you're getting caught up on that, that's why. So now I should be able to put this bitch back on here. Alright, so slide it over. If you got a little lip on here, you're gonna have to push it a little, get it past that, but there you go, it's on. We just need to get our mounting bolts back in. Alright, once you got your mounting bolts back in, go ahead and snug them back down. You want them to be decently tight, around 60 foot-pounds or so of torque. You don't gotta Hercules the shit, but put them on nice and tight. You can probably Google the torque spec if you want, but I've always just snugged them down and never had a problem. I've worked on so many cars, I get used to about how everything should be. And when you own over 10 cars, it's expensive to have manuals for them all. So if you really want to know the torque spec, look it up. It should be around 60 foot-pounds, somewhere around there. It'd be just fine if you're going to torque it. If not, just snug them down nice and tight. But don't Hercules the shit. And while you're at it, if you're so inclined, you can put some anti-seize on them. That way next time they won't be so hard to get off and they don't seize up on you. Okay, so everything's back on. Now we just need to throw our wheel back on. Okay, these aren't real tight. You want to torque them in 3 steps. Crisscross pattern. You want to do 30 foot-pounds. First set, 60 foot-pounds. Third set, 80 or 90 foot-pounds for your final set, third set. The point of doing this is so you don't get the wheel on cockeyed and it'll go on nice and straight, which also affects your rotor. Your rotor's only going to be as straight as the wheel is mounted on it. If your rotor's mounted crooked, that's actually how you get warped rotors, because it wobbles in your caliper like this and it creates hot spots. So make sure you torque the wheel properly. If you don't have a torque wrench, 30, 60, 90, you can just kind of go by feel. You don't want them on there real tight. I'm not going to use a torque wrench because I've done this so many times. I know about what 30, 60, and 90 foot-pounds feels like with a tire iron. Alright, when you're finished, maybe push your pistons out with this C-clamp so they're not going to be where they need to be grabbing the rotor yet. So you want to start the car. And you're just going to push on the brake pedal a few times. You're going to push it down lightly a few times, no more than halfway until they firm up. Because you don't want to go and pull out and then step on the brakes, and they will go pretty much to the floor because your pistons still need to come out so it actually grabs the rotor. So just get in, push it a few times lightly until they firm up, and then you're good to go.